Good afternoon. Welcome to our daily briefing on COVID-19. Thank you very much for joining us. We continue, as you know, to face a global health crisis, which impacts Gibraltar in different ways. The purpose of this briefing is therefore twofold. The first is to keep you informed, and the second, to make sure that you keep safe. So we'll be updating you on a number of different areas and repeating our public health advice. I am joined today by the Minister for Business, Tourism and Transport, Vijay Daryanani. Today is May Day. We mark International Workers' Day. On the 1st of May 1886, 300,000 workers across 13,000 businesses in the United States walked out of their jobs. The epicenter was in Chicago. Events at Haymarket Square were at the heart of it, and protesters lost their lives. The driver was the campaign for an 8-hour day. The short-term result was bloodshed and violence. The long-term consequences were nonetheless more profound. And 1st of May was declared International Workers' Day, in memory of the Haymarket affair, but also of the struggle of workers throughout history. It also marks the rights that we enjoy today, which at one point were non-existent. This year, May Day comes in the midst of a global pandemic, where hundreds of thousands of people are infected with COVID-19, and where tens of thousands have lost their lives. This year, we remember in particular those in the front line, our healthcare workers, our emergency services, our essential services, the public sector, the civil service, the private sector, those in our supermarkets, in our pharmacies, in our petrol stations, in our takeaways and delivery companies, and all those who have kept and continue to keep Gibraltar going at this difficult time. This year, more than any other year, May Day is your day. Thank you. I will start with an update from A&E and with the latest data as at 8:30 a.m. this morning. Remember that anyone with the symptoms of COVID-19 should call 111 first. In the last 24 hours, there were a total of 29 attendances at A&E. 9 of them had COVID symptoms. 4 were swabbed. There were no admissions into the COVID ward, but 2 admissions into the COVID CCU, neither of whom has required ventilators. The latest test data is as follows. Total swabs, 2,700. Results received, 2,501. Results pending, 199. Confirmed cases, 144. Recovered cases, 131. Active cases, 13. All 13 active cases are at home. The above includes the figures for the frontline targeted and systematic sampling, where a total of 321 swabs have now been taken, and these cover, for now, the RGP, the prison, the MOD, Ocean Views, Mount Alvernia, and St. Bernadette's. There are 149 free beds at St. Bernard's and 238 at the Nightingale Hospital. That makes a total of 387 free beds. The grand total of 2,700 tests so far is some 8.4% of the population. The equivalent in the UK would be 5.6 million tests, and they have done just about 1 million so far. Gibraltar therefore continues in the top 10 in terms of tests done per capita million. We are now ranked at number 5 in the world. I also want to provide a more detailed breakdown of the latest test data. There are, as I said, 144 confirmed cases, 79 males and 65 females, 11 of them aged 19 or under. 52 aged from 20 to 39, 63 aged from 40 to 59, 15 from 60 to 79, and 3 from 80 to 89. 44% of cases, the largest single age group, are between 40 and 59, and 9 of the confirmed cases are over 70. Legislation to give effect to the next stage in the relaxation of lockdown will be published today. These changes will allow retail shops to open, other than those which have been open already throughout. Hours will nonetheless be limited between 10 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. This will be subject to the conditions that apply to all shops. They must provide hand sanitizing facilities. Social distancing must be practiced where practicable. If not possible, masks must be worn by employees, and they must comply with any other recommendations and instructions from the Director of Public Health. Hair and beauty salons will also be allowed to reopen. Again, there are conditions as to how they can operate. Customers may only attend by appointment. Employees must wear masks. Hand sanitizing facilities must be provided at entry and exit. Good hygiene must be maintained, and they must comply with any other instructions or recommendations from the Public Health Director. Restrictions on opening times will not apply to hair and beauty salons because of the requirement that they work on an appointment-only basis. Estate agents will also be able to resume their business subject to similar conditions. This includes the wearing of masks when visiting properties. Clinics which provide medical or health services may be able to recommence work. This includes dental services, opticians, chiropractors, osteopaths, and others. Again, they must take appropriate precautions. Our approach continues to be to prioritize public safety and security. Our objective is to continue to suppress the spread of the virus as much as possible. The restrictions will be removed gradually and prudently. The relaxation of these restrictions only apply to persons under the age of 70 in order to protect the most vulnerable. Persons over 70 will need to wait a little longer until it is safe to relax the lockdown in these areas for them. We recognize that as some businesses start to open, there may be greater demand for our childcare supervision facilities. This too has to be managed so that there is sufficient staff available and to ensure social distancing is observed. I would remind you that childcare supervision facilities are only available for children falling within the category set out by the Department of Education. Other than in the case of vulnerable children, those attending St. Martin's or other special circumstances approved by the Department of Education, the childcare supervision facilities can be used only where parents have to go to work and are unable to make alternative childcare provisions without involving relatives over the age of 70. Where a parent is at home or working from home, the child should also remain at home. Any parent whose child meets the Department of Education's criteria and who needs their children to take advantage of the childcare supervision facilities must now submit a form. This form is available at www.education.gov.gi. A failure to do so may result in your child being unable to make use of these facilities. In order to avoid this, please submit the form if your child falls within the relevant categories and you intend to take your child either to Notre Dame if your child is in the lower primary sector, St. Anne's for the upper primary children, Westside for secondary children, or to St. Martin's. Remember, the form can be found at www.education.gov.gi. Moving on, I am pleased to report that the EU has now updated its PPE regulations. PPE means personal protective equipment. This has simplified export procedures of PPE to a number of countries, including to Gibraltar. This change is on the basis that those countries have a particular dependency on the supply chains of member states to which they are linked, or to the supply chains of neighbouring member states. It covers protective spectacles and visors, mouth-nose protection equipment, and protective garments. The modified regulation now exempts Gibraltar. This means that the simplified procedures apply to us, and this facilitates the exports of PPE to Gibraltar from the EU or through the EU. This is, as I said, a very welcome development. A short update now on the archives. Last week, the Gibraltar National Archives uploaded historic footage of Gibraltar onto their website. Within hours of the announcement, over 1,000 of you had already viewed the film clips. The number of hits has continued to increase. This is hugely encouraging to the archivist and to his team. So thank you. As you know, Her Majesty the Queen visited Gibraltar in 1954. Next week is the anniversary of this visit. Footage has now been uploaded to the website. It is new to me and well worth watching. Check this out again at nationalarchives.gi. Once again, I want to thank Anthony Pitaluga and his team for making this available during lockdown. And I want to say a few words now to our over 70s. There are now 3 exercise options open to you. The first is to stay at home and to exercise at home. This is by far the safest option. The second is to exercise in a sheltered area. And the third, to exercise where you like, when you like. However, our advice to you remains the same. If you are over 70, you are safer at home. Nonetheless, we appreciate that exercise would be beneficial to some people in this cohort, particularly after so many weeks of confinement. So on Wednesday, those over 70 exercised outdoors for the first time. 219 persons exercised under the Golden Hour scheme. The numbers were 90 in Camp Bay, 59 in Eastern Beach, 66 in Commonwealth Park, and 4 in the Victoria Stadium. On Thursday, the overall numbers increased to 245. This was broken down into 118 at Camp Bay, 55 in Eastern Beach, 65 in Commonwealth Park, and 7 in the Victoria Stadium. So the most popular area is Camp Bay, and the least popular is the Victoria Stadium. Those 4 areas are cleaned and disinfected. Access is controlled. Marshals are in attendance. Hand sanitizers are provided. St. John Ambulance has a presence at the 4 sites. Therefore, we as a government have done as much as we can. And the government is indeed very grateful to all those who have helped. But remember, even sheltered exercise is not risk-free. We can mitigate the risk, but we cannot eliminate it. For instance, those who exercise will need to get there to their chosen area and then back home again. So do so with care. Avoid touching anything outdoors. Do not touch your nose or your mouth. And wash your hands thoroughly on returning home. Make the experience as safe as possible. Remember that the Golden Hour is available only on weekdays. It is not available on weekends or during bank holidays. Some over 70s asked to exercise where and when they like, in the same way as everybody else, without the constraints of time and place, but also without the protection. This is now possible too. Clearly, this third option carries the most risk. So if you are going to do this, take extra care. Be sensible. Avoid trouble. And stick to the rules. Maintain social distancing. Those who take up this option will need to weigh up the benefit against the much higher risk. We know that confinement is not easy. Even less for over a month. It is a tough experience for everyone, in particular for those over 70. We understand that, but it is important not to let down our guard. The number infected in Gibraltar has gone up. It could jump further at any time. Our policy of shielding the vulnerable is working. Please do not spoil it now. If you are desperate to exercise, then be very careful. Make sure you exercise and not socialize. Only go out with members of your household. Do not meet family and friends on the way. And again, maintain social distancing. Because COVID-19 is still out there, waiting to pounce. It will hit the most vulnerable hardest. So please understand that this is far from over. We have simply moved to a new phase in the war. Our aim now is to search, to find, and to destroy. Our strategy to test, to track, and to isolate. That is how we kill the enemy. So follow the rules. This is now more important than ever as we lighten the lockdown. If the rules are abused, we may need to tighten up once again. The world we left behind in March is now a distant memory, and one we may never return to. The Chief Minister spoke of a new normal yesterday. Life after COVID-19 will indeed be very different. We will need to change. We will need to adapt to a new reality with new rules and a new way of doing things. But we, the people of this rock, know exactly what it means. We have been there before. Over many centuries, we have learned to adjust to new situations. We have thrived after each and every crisis. We have been versatile and nimble enough to stay ahead of the game, and we have made a success of change. Where others fear change, we have learnt to embrace it. True, the challenge today is a very different one. The threat today is a threat to life itself. But you have the power to defeat this virus. You know what you have to do. You also know what you must not do. So listen to what we say. Be careful and stay safe. Before passing on to my friend and colleague, the Minister for Business, Tourism and Transport, let me repeat a public health advice once again. Listen and act on the advice of your public health professionals. When you sneeze or cough, do so in a tissue and then bin it. Wash your hands regularly for at least 20 seconds. Do not visit anyone over 70. If you are over 70 or vulnerable, please stay at home. If you need medical advice, call 111. If you have any other question, call 200 41818. And for emergencies, call 190 or 199 as usual. Stay home and stay alive. I now pass you on to Minister Darianani.
Good afternoon, Gibraltar. As you will appreciate, the last few weeks have been extremely challenging for our community. We have never ever been told to stay at home. We have never ever been told not to hug our loved ones. And we have never ever been told not to go out to meet our elderly parents and grandparents. Who would have thought? All this due to an invisible enemy, a deadly virus that has killed thousands of people around the world. In Gibraltar, we have been blessed. The decisive action taken by our government at the right time, ahead of time, by imposing this lockdown has contained the situation. You have played a crucial role in this. You have listened to our advice, and we are extremely grateful for that. It is now imperative that you continue to follow the rules by staying home and staying safe. Gibraltar has changed dramatically over the last few weeks. It is heartbreaking to walk down Main Street. Main Street has always been a sign of our economic success. It is exciting to see it full of tourists buying in our shops, to see our people doing their errands, on their way to work, or during their lunch breaks. Businessmen, from abroad rushing to their appointments to meet with lawyers, accountants, and bankers. Today we see an abandoned street, an empty street. I know our small businesses are worried. I can understand that. I can understand how you feel, because that is where I come from. But our Gibraltarian entrepreneur is a winner, and we will win again. I have no doubt about that. You will know that your government has pulled out all the stops to protect businesses and jobs. Our first two steps to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on businesses and employees have been rolled out. Measures include the waiving of rates, government rents, PAY and social insurance, followed by support to employers to pay wages. Employees will have started receiving these wages this week. These measures have been a lifesaver for some of our businesses. I know that most of you are chomping at the bit to kickstart our economy, to start working again. I understand that, but we need to be cautious. The lockdown measures that your government has put in place are to protect you, to protect your business, so that when we come out of this, and we will, we have a long-term future to think about. That is what your government has prioritized. You will have heard the Chief Minister announce yesterday how we intend to start unlocking our economy gradually and prudently. The Deputy Chief Minister has just told you about the sectors that will open tomorrow. Extremely strict social distancing guidelines will have to be observed, and the use of hand sanitizers will be made available by businesses. This is absolutely paramount that we continue practicing these measures. Establishments will have to limit the amount of customers from entering at the same time. We need to observe all these measures so that we can keep the virus down. Businesses need to appreciate that this opening is not a free-for-all. We need to exercise caution and some basic common sense. The government will work with the private sector to assist in every way we can during these early days of easing lockdown. Businesses will be heartened to learn that the beat measures will be made available for the month of May to employees with inactive employees. This will assist immensely during the new stage of reopening gradually. Other sectors will follow, but we have to be patient. This has to be done delicately so that we are successful at every phase of kickstarting the economy. Last Friday, the Chief Minister, Albert Isola, and I met with CELAC. Amongst other issues, we discussed the way ahead and how to support and stimulate business going forward. One of the things that many businesses have contacted me about are government-backed loans. You'll be pleased to learn that these are something that we are considering, and hopefully we will be in a position to announce soon. We're also considering changes to insolvency regulations so that businesses that have been successful in the past can continue trading during these difficult times. These conversations with CELAC will continue, and government will work hand in glove with all concerned parties so that we are able to support you during these difficult times. Tourism has been hit badly. I have over the last few weeks been in conversations with our hoteliers and with our tourism sector in general. It is impossible to predict what will happen in the short term. As you will have heard earlier this week, British Airways has sacked 12,000 employees. Hertz, one of the largest car rental companies, is preparing for potential bankruptcy by laying off 10,000 of its staff, with further cuts in the pipeline. This is an unimaginable situation. Who would have ever thought that companies with British Airways and Hertz stature would sack so many employees in one go? Even today, we have heard Ryanair has announced 3,000 job cuts and a pay cut of up to 20%. But these are the times that we live in. Yesterday evening, I had a conference call with EasyJet. We discussed how they are planning to commence their operations and how Gibraltar will be affected. The airline industry itself is an extremely precarious situation. I have proposed to them that they should start with at least some flights to Gatwick and Manchester. These airlinks are crucial for our finance centre, for tourism and our children who go to university. A link with the north of England is important so that our children can travel with ease to this region. Your government has been working to open up new routes, but at the moment we will try to consolidate what we have. As far as cruising is concerned, the situation is equally dire. I'm continuing to engage with all our contacts in this sector to inform them that Gibraltar will be open for business the moment the cruising industry commences. These are tough times. The Gibraltarians are stronger when the chips are down, and they are really down at the moment. But we will be back. I'm sure about that. You will have noticed that there are less cars on our roads. This is a good thing, and we must try to keep this up. My colleague John Cortes recently announced how our air quality had improved over the last few weeks. I suppose every cloud has a silver lining. I'm hoping that when we start to have some form of normality, people can be encouraged to walk or cycle whenever possible. Your government is looking at some new traffic arrangements to make this possible and more attractive to our people. Then we have Task Force Future. My colleagues Albert Isola, Gilbert Likudi, and I have started working with the private sector on how to position the Gibraltar economy post-COVID-19. We are starting to receive representations with ideas, and hopefully we'll be in a position to engage directly with stakeholders very soon. The enthusiasm and energy shown by everyone involved is great to see. It is clear that people are passionate about fighting for our future. I have always been ambitious for Gibraltar, and the last few weeks has made me even more so. We will undoubtedly succeed again. As you will know, today is May Day. It was this government that brought back the May Day holiday to May the 1st. You are probably thinking what I am. At this time, we should all be at Casements with our family and friends, celebrating, maybe hugging, kissing, and shaking hands. Not this year, my friends. But as the saying goes, there's always next year. Above all, rest assured that your government will continue to protect the rights of all workers, now and always. I would like to mention our frontline workers, who have been immense. We would not have been able to do this without you. GHA staff, RGP, Customs, ERS, Borders and Coast Guards, the Defence Police, St. John's Ambulance, our civil service, all of you. Apologies if I have left anyone out. The staff at the post office have done a magnificent job. All our postmen and postwomen, those at Main Street and Parcel Post, ably led by Glendon Martinez. My staff at the Ministry of Business, Tourism and Transport, led by Gerard Tayuma, who have worked tirelessly during this national emergency. And last but not least, Nicky Guerrero, CEO at the Tourist Board, who has kept on reminding me that better times will come. Finally, I would like to thank everyone for their steadfast commitment to following the government's advice. The risk of a second wave is real, so let's not give up now. Let's beat this together and make sure that we can have our beloved Gibraltar back. For that to happen, we must continue following the advice. Stay home. Stay safe. If you think it is absolutely necessary to go out, then do so, maintaining social distancing guidelines. Wash your hands regularly. And if you sneeze, catch it, bin it, and kill it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Vijay. Are there any questions?
So some Main Street traders have expressed concern that the limited opening hours may have an impact on their employees. In a scenario where some employers have to choose between which employees to bring back to work and which to keep as inactive, that might place them in a bit of a discriminatory position, considering those that come back and work limited hours may earn less than those who continue as inactive. Do you have any solutions for?
Well, I mean, look, there are no simple solutions to problems like this. What will happen now, as we're going to have a gradual opening, there will be businesses that, let's say, if they employ 8 people or they want to start off with 4, then the other 4 can remain on the beat measures and claim from the government. Then we have June after that. So in June they can change their employees. Those who have worked in May, they can work in June. I mean, that is a solution, but I think this is something that each business will have to deal with. At the end of the day, these are extraordinary times, and sometimes simple things become difficult. So each business will have to deal with it, accordingly with their own employees.
Thank you. Next question.
Minister Dayanani, I just wanted to ask about, we've had a few queries about banks. Will they be opening at a certain stage, and or is that included within the measures, because you don't explicitly talk about it? And is it possible that perhaps some elderly people will be able to go and visit banks to be able to take out money, etc., etc.?
Well, when it comes to banks, it's not that we have that banks will probably start opening in a further phase. But from what I know is that if you want to access cash, you can just call up your bank and arrange an appointment, and you can do so. So I don't think that's a problem at the moment. And there's always the cash till, which over 70s or anybody can go to access.
For putting in money?
Sorry?
For putting in
You can. From what I know, that some banks you can do that also by appointment.
Remember that people are allowed to leave the homes when the list of conditions was published for under 70s and for over 70s. One of the things they could do is to visit the financial institution. So the institution itself may have chosen to close its public areas and public counters, and you're limited in what can be done. Sorry, next question.
Deputy Chief Minister, I think you have answered this, but please can you confirm the answer to a question from the New People? The Chief Minister yesterday announced measures of relaxation, which comes into effect tomorrow. Among others, hairdressers are opening with strict rules implemented. Nothing was said about the over 70s and the vulnerable and whether they were able to attend hairdressing appointments. Their rules on stay home have not been changed other than the golden hour and short exercise walks. Would it be correct to assume that this group is not to attend hairdressing appointments at this stage?
That's right. The relaxation that has taken place in respect of the over 70s has been in respect of being able to exercise where they were not able to exercise before. The relaxation announced by the Chief Minister, which is being brought into effect by legislation today, will provide for the opening of certain establishments, including hairdressers, but these are for the use by people under 70. So what I'm saying is that over 70s should not make appointments in hairdressing salons, and hairdressing salons should not accept appointments or requests for appointments from those who are over 70. Our public health advice on this is very clear, and it should not happen.
A question for Minister Dayanani from YGTV. Do you think that Main Street traders have adapted well to the lockdown by offering online services and home deliveries? Do you think this experience will change their business models for the foreseeable future?
I think they've adapted perfectly. They've done a great job. Look, at the end of the day, what we need to accept, because we have no choice, that what is happening at the moment is totally new. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. But I think the online business is something that is big out there in the world, and Gibraltar will have to change. One of the things that I'm looking at with the Federation of Small Businesses and the Chamber is the possibility of launching a platform for all local businesses so that they can put their products online and people can buy them online, and hopefully in a position that even that not only for locals to buy online, but for people out of Gibraltar to buy also.
A question for either minister from GBC. In its May Day statement, Unite the Union has called for investment in workers to be the focus of a post-COVID strategy and not austerity. What assurances would you offer the unions that a global economic downturn won't result in austerity measures in Gibraltar?
Well, first of all, the degree of improvement of the rights of workers and the investment in workers that has taken place under this government over the years is unprecedented. We now move to new uncharted territory as a result of what is expected widely to be more than simply a global economic recession. We are expecting a global economic slump. Gibraltar is small and versatile. We may be able to do things that larger countries cannot. But in short, the answer to the question is this. The Chief Minister has said that there will be a full and frank discussions with the unions before anything happens, so we need to wait for that discussion to take place.
A question for the Deputy Chief Minister from the Panorama. Yesterday, the Chief Minister announced the new set of measures aimed at certain sectors of the economy, including shops, etc. The lifting of these restrictions accompanied by strict conditions, which Mr. Picardo said the implementation of these measures and others, like social distancing, would be left to the civic duty and individual responsibility because, quote, You cannot police common sense, close quote. Why has the same common sense implementation policy not been enforced or applied to the general public and cohort groups like the over 70s, when national lockdown measures have been policed by the RGP, HM Customs and other agencies? An implementation policy which has involved extensive policing manpower resources.
I would say that the short answer to the question is this. It is much easier to be able to police large public open areas like squares or roads or even beaches than it is to police every single shop, every single retail establishment, every single hairdresser all over Gibraltar. So people are told that it is their civic duty to ensure they maintain social distancing, that for some of these establishments, when they open, the staff will be required to wear masks, face masks, to protect themselves, or more to protect others than to protect themselves. And it's obviously much easier to enforce that at a wider, in larger open areas than it is in every single office and every single shop. So that is why we're calling on people to exercise their sense of civic duty, their sense of responsibility to make sure that we are safe and we manage to contain the spread of the virus. Yes.
Will the restrictions on terminations of employment be lifted at this time or anytime soon?
So the restrictions on?
Terminations of employment.
The restrictions on termination of employment were issued with a specific commencement, which I believe was the 15th of March, and a specific ending. So at that particular time, when that happens, there will be a full discussion, as there has been throughout, with CELAC, with the different business organizations, and also with the trade unions. But when the time comes for that to happen, there will be a discussion, and that is when it should happen.
Mr. Dayanani, I just wanted to bring up this issue about parking. Can you confirm to me that zonal parking, especially Zone 2 at this time, will be postponed or at least put on ice for the moment, or at least until public counters reopen? Or is this just a temporary measure? And to what extent will the public transport service be out of action, and at what date will it recommence?
Well, first of all, for the public transport, it's a bigger issue. So we can't just we're looking at it. We don't have a fixed date yet, and we'll announce it when ready, because this is it's a difficult situation. Public transport is a difficult situation. And so far as Zone 2 is concerned, no, Zone 2 will not be suspended, and you can access carparks.com. Is the website, and you can pay for your Zone 2 permit. What people shouldn't be concerned that we're going to be clamping cars or fining people. I mean, I've made this quite clear. I even issued a press release. I think it was towards the end of March sometime, in which I said that, for people not to be concerned, to try and apply for your permit, but that we won't be fining anybody or clamping anybody.
Well, I'm talking for myself personally, because I have a Zone 2 residency, but I'm sure there are other people in this situation as well. I mean, everyone's permits expired at the end of last month. So in respect of that, I received an email, and I'm sure this is the case for others as well, that this was going to be put on ice for the moment, and you would not be able to pay for the extension of the Zone 2 permit for this time, which is obviously contrary to what you ministers are actually saying.
Well, like I say, I don't think that you should give that much importance to your. If you have a pass from last year, then use it, and you won't be clamped, or you won't be fined. So you have nothing to worry about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
A question for Minister Dayanani from the Panorama. Someone well versed with the local business industry, do you believe the measures announced by the Chief Minister yesterday, which start tomorrow, will make a significant difference in kickstarting the economy, when firstly, consumer confidence must be regained, which might take time, and secondly, when many main street and city businesses heavily rely on the tourist and frontier trade to survive, how long do you think these measures, as they are now, are sustainable, particularly with those businesses who rely on a full-flowing frontier and fluid tourist trade?
Yes, I mean, we live in extremely difficult times. We only have to, switch on television, and you see how Everybody is talking about businesses not being able to start, and when they do start, they know that it's going to be very difficult. We need to start somewhere, and this is the first phase. What the Chief Minister has announced is, as I said in my briefing, that what we've announced is not a free-for-all. It doesn't mean that everybody should go out and start buying. We know that there is no movement insofar as tourism is concerned, and it's not going to be, there won't be a lot of tourism in the coming months. So we have to deal with it, and what we have to do is prepare, work hard, and be ready when times get better.
Sorry, we have one more question. Is that?
A question from YGTV for Minister Daranani. How long does the government intend to support the British Airways air link to Gibraltar?
Well, that is constantly under review. British Airways will be flying for the month of May, and after that we will decide what we have to do, and we'll speak to them again.
So, any-
I just want to ask one question on the beat COVID measures, because the Minister, as part of an answer to a question, the Chief Minister said yesterday that some of those measures would continue for those companies operating along Main Street, because obviously there's going to be the hit to tourism, which you've already referred to. Will that be complete payment of these wages, or will that be partial? And how is that worked out?
I don't get your question. What do you mean by complete or partial?
Because I mean, like, are all their wages going to be paid? Is the beat COVID measures continuing for them, or is that just purely for the bars and cafes?
No, the beat COVID measures will continue for the month of May and June. As we start opening up, then people will obviously take off some people from those measures because they will start working. So the ones that are working will be paid for by their employer, and the ones that are not working and will remain inactive will be paid for by the government.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
No other questions, thank you.
Thank you all very much for your questions. Let me just repeat our public health advice before we close, and also to let you know that tomorrow my colleague, the Minister for Health, Paul Balbang, will be here, together with the Acting Medical Director, Dr. Krish Rawal. So the public health advice: please listen and act on the advice of our public health experts. When you sneeze or cough, do so in a tissue and then bin it. Wash your hands regularly for at least 20 seconds. Do not visit anyone over 70. If you are over 70 or vulnerable, please stay at home. If you need medical advice, call 111. If you have any other question, call 200 418 18. And for emergencies, call 190 or 199 as usual. Stay home. Stay alive. Thank you.